The Rebel Capitalist Show.
One thing I want to point out to everyone listening here that really wants to make a difference is I think you have to look at people in thirds. So you've got, and you and I discussed this, we've got 1/3 of the people that will be very receptive or maybe agree with maintaining our freedom and liberty. You've got another third of the people that you'll just never reach. They're just gone. They want to be told what to do. They want to obey. That they want to delegate their thinking to the government, and nothing you say is going to make them change their opinion. But then you've got a third in the middle that hasn't done the research. They don't really know what the Fed is. They kind of assume that the politicians are there and that they are motivated by goodwill. And they know that something just doesn't seem right with what's going on in 2020 and 2021, going back to the GFC. They know something, all this money printing, the Federal Reserve doing QE or the Repo. I just hear about it in the news. Something just doesn't seem right. Or maybe it's just they see the unemployment rate at all-time lows going back to 2019, and they look around them and they don't see a healthy economy. So it just doesn't feel right. Those are the people that I think that we need, that we can reach to really move the needle. And if we can reach that 1/3, then I think that we've got a shot of winning this thing. So the question becomes, once you've isolated that group, how do you reach out to them in a way where they'll be receptive to the message?
We have to come under one umbrella. There has to be one umbrella, one voice coming out with all of us united for the same cause, as I see it. So one of the thoughts I came up with was I formed a church, the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. Because with a church, you seem to have a lot of power, and you can't go after them the way you go after a political party. And our message is that whatever God you believe in, whatever religion you believe in, if it believes in freedom, peace, and justice, and you believe that it's being robbed from you, let's unite under that umbrella. Again, that's only my thought. I'm not selling it, but I don't know what to do, because I know that we cannot win if we have all these little groups fighting separately.
Yeah. And people won't be receptive to a message if you cram it down their throat. Like, as an example, if you've got all these Facebook friends that don't, they just watch CNN all the time, but they fall into that 1/3 that just knows there's something's not right here. If you just send them, meme after meme after meme on, people, the negative impacts of the vaccine or something like that, they're just going to completely ignore you. Yep. They're going to completely ignore you. So I actually wrote down a couple things that I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a better angle to take. You can't do it directly because then it's going to turn people off. But maybe you can do it in an indirect way by maybe encouraging the friends and family members that you have that are in that 1/3 to maybe listen to Ron Paul. Ron Paul still does a lot of videos on YouTube, and hopefully that could be like a gateway drug that they're more receptive to, instead of just telling them over and over again that they're stupid for watching CNN. But anyway,
I'm with you.
Another maybe gateway drug is introducing people to Bitcoin. And I'm not here to say Bitcoin's going to 500,000 or 100,000 or it's going up or down. That's not what I'm here to say. I do know, though, because I went to the Bitcoin conference, that a lot of people today know more about liberty and freedom, sound money, and Austrian economics for the sole reason that Bitcoin went way up in price. If Bitcoin would not have gone up in price, if they would not have seen Bitcoin as a way to get rich, they never would have been introduced to all of these concepts that they now value and believe in wholeheartedly. So maybe that's another thing that you can do with your friends. Also with gold, introducing people to the principles of sound money is something we can do now, when every single day they turn on the TV and they see all these stimulus checks going out. They see the Fed's balance sheet going to over 8 trillion. They see the deficits at 4 trillion. They see the deficit to GDP at over 20% in 2020. And even the average Joe and Jane looks at that and says, wait a minute, how can there not be a downside to that? So maybe you introduce them to gold, you introduce them to macro, you introduce them to Mises, and not just the whole, don't give them a book, but I just give them the quote that Mises used about the crack up boom. And if you just give people that quote, say, look, this is what this Austrian economist was saying decades ago. It's called a crack up boom. All they have to do is read the paragraph. And they'll say, you know what, that's exactly what's happening today. Maybe I should look a little bit more into that. So what do you think about that approach for just the average person watching this video?
I think it's excellent. But again, you're only going to get the ones who want to learn.
Yeah, right.
And again, to me, the bigger one is right now, because we're in a very crucial place, is how do we unite us? Mm-hmm. Again, it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, since Samuel Adams. And when the revolution happened, how many people were for it? Under 5%. At the height of it, under 50%.
Yeah.
So it's that third that you were saying. I agree with everything that you're saying. And that's part of the whole thing and going on. But we need to come under one umbrella, as I see it. Because we can't.
I think, Gerald, that you and I really have a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And I think many people that will watch this video also have that same sense of urgency. I think that's important that we all have that sense.
It's urgent. If we don't act, again, my greatest fear is they're going to take us to war, because this economy is going to crash. And
do you think that would be a civil war? Gerald,
they definitely.
Or a war against
civil
China,
war. They're going to take us
think?
To war as well. When the economies crash, go back to everyone. World War I, World War II. What preceded World War II? Oh, they called it the Great Depression. Go look at the banksters. What they did prior to World War. That murderous lowlife scum, Woodrow Wilson, bringing us the Federal Reserve. And then putting us into World War I. Oh, and by the way, who's our Treasury Secretary now? Oh, the former head of the private banksters, the Federal Reserve. He even used that word. It's Orwellian to call it a Federal Reserve. As people know, that listen to you and the Bitcoin people, and they're as federal as Federal Express. And we have that person now as our Treasury Secretary. This economy is going to go down big. It's going to go down hard. Something's going on, as I believe or feel, that's bigger than we could understand, because this is global. We got the banksters running our lives. There was this guy, they say Jesus Christ, drove the money changers out of the temple, became violent, drove him out of the temple, built his own whip, didn't buy it at Walmart. Poof, 3 days later, the cat's hanging on the cross for screwing with the banksters. The drug dealers. Hey, that Afghan war is a great one, huh? Who warned us about the military-industrial complex, robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children? Oh, yeah, Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, supreme commander of the Allied forces, 2-term president. And big tech. That's who's running our lives. And look at the little freaks. Look at that little Zuckerberg. Look at that Cook. Look at that Pitzer, the other guy from Google. Look at him. As I said, look at the freak politicians that are running our lives. And we're letting this happen? How could it be? Yeah. This economy is going to go down hard and big. And that's why I believe Bitcoin, I believe gold, I believe silver. And they're all going to go digital, by the way, all the major currencies. So they know every penny we spent, where we spent it, how we spent it. Oh, look at these slimy, low-life politicians. Have any of them did a pay cut during the COVID war? Nah. But you're a non-essential piece of shit. Close down your business. You're not an essential business like Walmart, like Costco, like Home Depot.
Amazon.
You're a nobody.
Yeah. And, I think the decision that people, just to make it very, very simple for them, I know you're a student of history and you talked about the Revolutionary War. So let's just go back there for a moment. I want to point out something that most people don't realize that you kind of implied there, is that you had two groups of Americans, for the most part, during the Revolutionary War. And most people don't realize that if you read the diaries of a lot of Americans, they didn't refer to it as the Revolutionary War. They referred to it as the Civil War. And the reason they did is because you had the Tories on one side. Those are Americans. Those were loyalists to the king, to Britain. And then you had the people who were called patriots, and they were the revolutionaries, let's say. So what was the motivation behind each group? What was their narrative? What did they believe? Why did they believe that? Why did one group believe that we should stay with Britain and the other group believe that we should go to war? Well, it's very simple. You could boil it down to just one word. For the Tories, they valued safety more than they valued freedom. Their argument was that we can't cut ties with Britain because their navy protects us from all of these boogeymen out there. And we need that naval protection for our security. Therefore, we should go ahead and give up our freedoms to get the British Navy on our side. Well, the patriots said, no. We realize that we're foregoing safety, but our freedom is far more important. So the Tories valued safety. The patriots valued freedom. And you have to ask yourself, who is on the right side of history? Was it the patriots? Was the Tories? Because we see the exact same thing playing out today. You have a group of Americans that value safety above freedom. And you have another group of Americans that value freedom above safety. So when we look back 20 or 30 years from now, who do you think is going to be on the right side of history? I can almost guarantee you it's going to be the patriots.
Of course.
Once again. So these people that are watching right now, you've got to ask yourself, are you a Tory or are you a patriot?
Well,
I think
said.
that's one of the main takeaways here.
Perfectly said.
I'm trying to just study as much history as I can. So I was reading and watching some stuff on the Ottoman Empire and how it grew, and then how it collapsed, or what the Ottoman Empire's demise looked like, and why there was this rise to fame, and then it's just this gradual decline over the decades. And I was watching the same thing and reading about Rome the other day as well. And every single time I try to look at one of these empires and the decline, it brings me back to one quote. And that's the quote where hard times make strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. If you look at at least the ones that I've studied, that's always the reason they decline. And that's what we're seeing today.
Weak men make hard times. Is that the quote?
The quote is, hard times make strong men. Yeah. Strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times.
That's right. The weak men make hard times. As I said before, look who we're taking orders from. Weak men and weak women.
Yeah.
This what just happened with America's defeat in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
This should be a wake-up call to everybody. This is the fall of the empire. It's over. The 20th century was the American century. The 21st century is going to be the Chinese century. The business of America has been war. The business of China is business. And think about it. We used to make fun of the Chinese for wearing them masks and being forced to lock down by their government.
Yeah, good point.
Now, the Chinese way, you must obey. It's the American way. You must obey.